Even though I said no, my husband quietly asked his sister to join us on our honeymoon. I left him at the airport and went on a trip by myself instead. Hello, my name is Sarah, and I'm 27 years old. I got married a week ago to Jacob, who is 30, and we were meant to leave yesterday for our honeymoon. But I ended up taking a flight to somewhere else because his younger sister Angie, a 26-year-old woman, showed up at the airport. It turns out that Jacob knew about this the whole time and had even asked her to come with us. To give you some background, his sister Angie just got divorced from her husband and has been very upset about it for a couple of months now. She and her ex-boyfriend were in love in high school and got married right away. For many happy years they were together. But about a year ago, Angie learned that he had been seeing one of his co-workers instead of her. Even after that, she tried to make things work with him, but after a few rounds of marriage therapy, he filed for divorce, saying he just couldn't do it anymore. No matter how much she begged him to stay, he left, and they split up. It was a big deal, the house, the cars, and everything else she got in the divorce, but it wasn't enough for her because she just wanted to keep her marriage together. That made me sad, and I really felt bad for her because she was a nice person and didn't deserve it. Sincerely, no one should have to live that way, and I had seen for myself how sad she was in the months after the split. At first, I wanted to help her, but all I could do was comfort her. I wanted her to be a part of the wedding so she would have something to do. But Jacob told me it wasn't a good idea because she would remember how her own marriage ended when she was at our wedding. Because he had a good point, I chose to check on her every once in a while again. E.G. and I were friendly, but we were never really close. I think that's true of most of Jacob's family as well. I wouldn't say I was close to any of them, but we got along fine. And so far none of them have given me any trouble. But then, the day after my wedding, Nora, 55 female, my mother-in-law, called me and asked me to invite Angie to join us on our honeymoon. Jacob and I had been making plans for this for a long time. If I'm being honest, I think I was more excited about the trip than the wedding. Jared and I both love to travel, and we especially love mountain areas. We were going to take a whole trip through the Alps. We hadn't worked in 3 weeks, and we had been excited about this since we made the plans. Though I felt sorry for Angie and would have done anything to make her feel better, this was the only thing that stopped me. She told me that Angie also liked to travel and thought that going on a trip with us would help her deal with her pain. However, Angie wouldn't be willing to go unless I personally asked her to. She wanted me to ask her and make it look like I wanted her to come. I really didn't want her to come with us though. We had planned for this to be our honeymoon. I also don't think it's right for family to go on vacations with the newlyweds. Second, I was really looking forward to this because both of us, we had been very busy and stressed in the weeks before the wedding. For our own pleasure, Jacob and I took some time off to travel and spend valuable time together. It didn't seem fair that Nora wanted me to give up everything so that Angie could be happy. Because it wouldn't be fair for either of us, I had to tell Nora that I couldn't do it, which broke my heart. I thought she would get that this was supposed to be our honeymoon. I didn't want Angie to come with us. I didn't fight with her at the time. Instead, she tried to persuade me that this would be great for her and that I would be doing everyone a big favor by asking her to come with us. It was her promise that Angie could come with us on the trip, so I didn't have to think about the money. I only had to invite her and be there for her. I stood my ground and said no even though she was pushing really hard because it wasn't fair for either of us. For sure, she was having a hard time dealing with the split, but she couldn't come along with us and expect us to skip our vacation to make her feel better. In any case, Angie wasn't even trying to get me to let her come. Nora thought it would be a good idea for her to come with us. If Angie had asked me, I might have even thought about saying yes, but she hadn't said anything making me think that she didn't want to come with us. She told me to have fun when I told her about the trip, but she didn't show any interest in coming with us. That was it. They talked and argued for a few minutes before Nora chose to drop the subject. It didn't come up again after that. It was strange that when I told Jacob what his mother had said after that talk, he didn't react in any way. I told him that I had told her no when he asked me what I had said. He did nothing but grunt when I told him that. There will be no more talking about it. It's possible that I should have thought about it more, but at the time I was too excited to start getting ready for our vacation to notice how he reacted. During the week between the wedding and the vacation, we were both busy at work getting things ready to leave, so we didn't get to meet. No one from his family tried to get in touch with us either, When Jacob and I were at home last week, we would sometimes talk about our vacation and trip. His plans were very clear, but he didn't say a word about them until the very end. I had no idea that he had asked Angie to come with us. I found out yesterday when Angie and Nora showed up at the airport together with us. Jacob and I got out of the house about 3 hours before our flight. While we were waiting outside the airport and getting our bags out of the taxis, Angie and Nora came up behind us. Before I saw that Angie had her bags with her, I tried to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. At that point, I knew she wasn't just stopping by to say goodbye or drop us off. She yelled really loudly in surprise, and when she got close enough, she hugged me. It was still hard for me to understand what was going on, even though I thought I had told both Jacob and his mother how I felt about it. Even though I told her not to, there she was, ready to go on our honeymoon with us. Angie's smile went away when she saw that I looked lost and unhappy when I saw her. She also asked me if I didn't like seeing her. Just because I didn't know what to say, I asked Jacob to explain. It was important for him to tell me that he didn't know anything about this and that Nora was to blame. He told me that after I told him about the call and talk I had with Nora the other day, he couldn't help but think about how nice it would be for Angie to join us on the trip and have fun to take her mind off of things. The reason he didn't say anything that day was that he reportedly told Angie that after I wasn't looking. It was I who came up with this idea and asked her to surprise me by going on the trip with us. He was also right about one thing. I was shocked, but not in a good way. He did the one thing I told him I didn't want, and I thought that was sneaky and selfish of him. As I already said, I like Angie because she's a nice person. I like many people, though. I'm not going to bring all of them on my vacation just because it would be nice. Some things are nice to do, but I don't have to, especially when it comes to something as private and important as a vacation. Then Jacob told me that this was his idea and that he was the one who asked her to join us. I got angry with him and told him that what he was doing was wrong right in front of Angie and his mother. I knew Angie would feel bad about it, but that wasn't what I was thinking at the time. I told him he had lied to me, and I couldn't forgive him because we had only been together for a week. Marriage, and he was already lying to me and being sneaky. He tried to play this off as something very small and unimportant, but he knew I had been planning this vacation for a long time because I told him I was excited about it. Not even on the day I told him about Nora's idea and how I didn't like the thought of asking Angie to come along just because she was sad. I think I made it very clear how I felt about this. That's why this wasn't small or unimportant to me at all. He wouldn't see it that way, even though I thought he had cheated me and was very angry about it. He told me I was making a big deal out of nothing and that I was making this much bigger than it was. He told me that Angie would cover her own costs. She would have her own room. It wasn't like we were always together. She would only join us for certain things. On the other hand, that wasn't enough for me because she was still going to go on our honeymoon with us. I don't know about you, but that seems really strange to me. I really don't think I would have had a problem if this trip had been just another weekend trip. I didn't want to ask my sister-in-law to go on my honeymoon with me, though. I knew I had had enough after a while of fighting and disagreeing. I decided to go away by myself because Jacob wouldn't take responsibility and admit that he had done something wrong. I wasn't going to waste the 3 weeks off I had already taken. This made me lose my temper, so I told him not to follow me and went inside the airport. He did, however, follow me. For that reason, though, I didn't want him around me at that time. He was following me around, so I had to yell at him to stop. I told him I didn't want him near me, or I would report him for harassment. But he didn't come after me after that. I could tell by the look on his face that what I said hurt and upset him a lot. I didn't care because I was mad and wanted to get away from him. After yelling at him and telling him to stop following me, I bought a ticket and got on the next flight to Miami. It was a good thing I didn't have to wait long because I was on the plane before Jacob could change his mind about following me. When I got to Miami, I picked up my phone to see if there were any texts. I checked my email and saw that Jacob, Angie, and Nora had all sent me notes. They all seemed very sorry for what had happened, but Angie's apology was the only one that really stood out. A few days ago, Jacob came to see her and told her that I had been suggesting that she come with us on our vacation. She told me she couldn't believe it. It looks like she was about to ask me if I was okay with it because she didn't want to get in the way. He told her not to ask me, though, because he wanted it to be a surprise for me. After our fight at the airport, she realized that her mother and brother had planned the whole thing. He had lied to her a lot to make her think it was my idea. Also, she told them she was sorry for what they had done, which was very stupid. If she had been in my shoes, she probably would have done the same thing, so she didn't blame me for how I took it. That she said she was. Sorry seemed real, so I told her it was okay. That she wasn't involved in any of this and was going through a really hard time made sense to me, so I forgive her. It was a whole different story with Jacob and Nora though. Even though Jacob said sorry, he was really trying to make me and Nora look like the bad guys. The people were trying to get me to believe that they meant well and didn't think I would be so angry about this. What they said was that they thought I would get used to this because I always pretended to like Angie. I like her a lot, but as I already said, that doesn't mean I want her on my vacation. I don't know what to say to them if they can't accept it. Even though I know I'm not doing anything wrong, I still feel bad, and it hasn't helped since I got here. I've been fighting with Jacob all the time. He just doesn't want to admit that going against my will was wrong and a mistake. I get it that he loves his family so much and is ready to give up things for them. I really respect that. But I don't think it's fair that you expect me to do the same things for his family. On top of that, I'm now his family member, and he owes me some things. It seems like his family's happiness is more important to him than mine, and making it seem like a race is really rude. But that's how it looks. He might not have done the one thing I told him not to do behind my back if he cared as much about my happiness as he did about his sister's. We've been arguing. Things are really bad because we've only been married for a week and things are already going badly. We had been together for almost 7 years before this happened. I feel terrible because this has never happened to us before. We've always had a pretty normal relationship. We've had fights, but nothing this big, and I don't know how to handle this. And he keeps telling me that his heart was in the right place. I need to really get that. As long as Angie wasn't on the honeymoon with us, he says, nothing bad would happen to me. It would have meant a lot to her, and it might have even kept her from getting worse in the future. He doesn't understand why I don't want Angie to go on our honeymoon with us without making me sound like a horrible person and a wife who wants to keep her husband away from her. Family, but I promise that's not true. I understand that I'm not the bad guy here, but all the fighting with my husband has made me feel crazy. I really don't know how to move forward. Should I have stayed at the airport with my husband instead of canceling our vacation when I found out he had asked his sister to join us? The update 1. I'm still in Miami, but I've been on a lot of trips. As many of you suggested, I've been going to the places you told me about to take my mind off of things. This is my first time here. I still can't get along with my husband because Jacob is so stubborn. He is sticking to what he thinks is right. He really doesn't think it would have been any different if Angie had been with us on the honeymoon. It took reading all of these comments to finally understand that I wasn't mad and that he was being unfair. Even Angie herself has said that it would have been weird, so I don't understand why he doesn't. Even though he texts me, I've given up on trying to explain things to him. We had been fighting for a while, but the last few days I've been here staying in my hotel room and arguing with him have been a waste of time. I've already spent too much time trying to get him to understand, but I can't help him if he won't. I can't even fully enjoy myself because I keep thinking about Jacob and what I'm going to say to him when I get back. We're married, so it's not like we can just break up and be done with it. I can't stay away from him forever. My whole life feels heavy, and I don't know why, but I feel like everything is going wrong right now. My parents and I have talked about this, but they also don't know what to do. They told me to do what I thought was right, and they would back me up in that. They'll be on my side no matter what, which is kind of nice to know, but I can't help but feel like everything is coming apart. It's even harder to deal with now that our wedding was less than a month ago. Some people might tell me that this is a big red flag and that I should just leave my husband, get a divorce, and be done with it, but it's not that simple. I'm not even talking about the divorce process itself, I'm talking about how it makes you feel and think. I'm not sure what to do. To be honest, I have no idea what's going on and don't even know what to expect. Second update, I just got back from Miami a few days ago, and things have not been going well since then. I came home to an empty house the day I got back because Jacob wasn't there. His texts stopped after 2.5 weeks while I was in Miami for 3 weeks. In fact, the last few texts he sent me were all about how he kept saying he didn't mean any harm and that I should think again about what I was doing. I finally replied to him when I got back home by telling him that I was back here. I didn't know what would happen, but I had to tell him so that at least something would. Fear of the unknown made me want to talk to him, because I couldn't stand not knowing what the future held. While I was back here, I texted him to let him know. He replied that he would be over the next day. We could talk. When he came over the next day, we were still talking about the same things. I thought that was a good sign and that we would finally get somewhere. It was still a fight over who was exaggerating and who was wrong. He went on to say that I should not have responded the way I did in front of Angie and made such a big deal out of this. I agreed with him. I trusted him because I knew he would never do anything to hurt our relationship. But the fact that I didn't want Angie to join us on our honeymoon, which was just a fancy holiday, made him think I was being too sensitive, and that I didn't need to be so upset about it. I believed it was very unjust. I had already told him how I felt about Angie joining us, but he had forgotten all about it. I did not like that he lied to me behind my back more than the fact that Angie was on our vacation. He not only lied to me, but he also lied about me when he told Angie that I asked her to come with us on our vacation. I want her to be happy, but not if it means I have to give up my own happiness. He tried to make it sound selfish and mean, but I don't think it's either of those things. He was selfish because he didn't care about how I felt and only wanted to be a good person for his family, not for me. That made me feel like he was telling me I wasn't worth it, which was awful. Besides that, he was staying in a hotel because he said he hadn't even left when he found out I had left without him. He told me that after I stopped answering his texts, he was thinking about getting a divorce because he felt I was going too far. He was the one who made a mistake, so I thought this attitude wasn't right. There was a lot of fighting, and to sum it up, nothing got better for us. I don't know why this is so important to him since he keeps telling me that I don't have a brother. Okay, so maybe that's true. I'll never know what it's like to love and care for a childhood brother so much. But what do you know? A lot of people who had brothers told me in the comments that this was going too far. Okay, so maybe he's wrong and he's just trying to trick me into thinking I'm being too sensitive. No matter what, none of it is going to work on me. If he doesn't say sorry to me soon, I'm going to have to talk to my lawyer about getting a divorce. That's a different story if he does say sorry. In the next few days, he has to come to me and say he's sorry for everything. Only then will I think about going to marriage therapy. He and Nora are the only ones who think what he did was fine right now, so it doesn't look like it will happen. I'm the one who is being too hard on him for no reason. However, Angie, the girl they are fighting so hard for, is on my side in this. She has told me more than once that she has been trying to explain this to both Nora and Jacob and tell them that what they did was unfair and not cool, but they won't listen to her, which shows that they think they are right more than what's right, than to do what's right. Seriously, I have no idea what to think about this anymore because it's so ridiculous. I thought the man I married was smart and great, but I don't think this is the same person. There are a lot of thoughts that don't make sense to me. Writing about them here helps me make some sense of them. I only want this to end, because it's getting too much for me to handle all the stress all the time. 3. Hello everyone. It's been a long time since the last update. I haven't written anything on this blog in a while because I've been going through a terrible breakup. I did decide to give it a chance and recommended that they go to marriage therapy. A few days after my last post, he told me that he still wanted to work on our marriage and wasn't ready to give up yet. Jake told me he wasn't ready to let go and that he wanted to work things out with me. His and my decision to try marriage therapy came after a lot of thought. It didn't work though. While we were seeing our therapy, we were doing great, but as soon as she left the room, we would start fighting again, and it would feel like we were wasting time. We still didn't give up during treatment though. We went to sessions for almost a month before we finally gave up. It didn't make sense to keep going to sessions and working things out there while still fighting in real life. He wasn't ready to admit that he was forgetting that I was also his family because he was too focused on his own family. And I didn't want to live a life where I was always second. That's why we both decided that it would be best if we broke up. Even though it sounds simple, it was really hard to decide, and we were both heartbroken that it wasn't going to work out. We both filed for divorce, and now we're in the settlement part. I don't care what I get out of the split anymore. I wish this would end quickly so I can go on with my life as if it never happened. Due to the crazy things going on in my life, I've been looking into individual treatment for myself. I think I could really use some help figuring out what's going on. Friends and family have been really helpful, and I'm thankful for that because they're the only ones who are actually making things easy for me. I know that a lot of people are talking about how my marriage ended in less than a year, but I don't care. It's important to me that the people I care about agree with me and believe I did the right thing. I don't care too much about what happens in the future, as long as I have that. Now I'm going to work and think about myself.